Natural Heritage Department must be credited, and I'm sorry that you have such a finite measurement of determining how, Madam Chair, I respect that those are the rules, but I would say I'm sorry because I was expecting a little more elasticity so that I could speak to you, Madam Chair.
You're on to 2 minutes of elasticity.
Okay.
Super.
2 minutes more?
2 minutes gone already. Carry on.
Okay, Madam Chair, I hope that as other honorable members of the chamber is given the opportunity, the leader of the opposition is saying that there's a way of adjusting or amending the rules so that I can at least in the democratic process give a little more so that he will be given the opportunity to speak. Okay, Madam Chair.
You spoke a whole minute very quick, got his stuff.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. I was quite willing to yield my 10 minutes to the honorable. Sorry.
Put the head.
Let's see if it's on my. You have to guide me on the language. Shall I say that I beg to move that headed to stand par? I just want to make sure that is appropriate according to the conventions of the House, Madam.
Leader of the Opposition.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. I was willing to yield my 10 minutes or so to the honorable minister, but neither of us want to run afoul of the rules. There are some people, ma'am, who view this ministry or ministries such as this as the Cinderella of ministries. I don't share that view at all. As a matter of fact, I strongly identify with the views of the honorable minister, who happens to be my parliamentary representative, for whom I voted last time. He will seriously have to court me next time for my vote, but that can be discussed. Now, there are a lot of things which reflect poor administration over the last 10 years in Barbados. People talk about the poor economy. They talk about the absence of this, the lack of this, rising prices, and obvious indifference on the part of those who were responsible for our governance. But often we overlook the fact that part of the damage done to our national space has been the matter of community scarring, the scarring of our landscape. And I see this ministry as being charged with a responsibility to repair that damage and to remove much of the scarring that has occurred on our national space in the last 10 years. This ministry has an important role to play, and I look forward to hearing the minister in the time he's allowed today and next time we speak with clear voice on several matters. To have an unhealthy, unsightly looking environment, poor sanitation services, this carries serious implications for our health, physical health, medical health, has implications for our front burner ministry, tourism, has implications for, more generally so, investment, has implications for potential damage on the national psyche. And you can see significant evidence of that across urban Barbados, in certain parts of St. Michael West, I'm sure St. Michael East. Some people regard some of the areas, some of the geography in these constituencies as slum areas. And one of the things that characterize the existence of people in these areas is the presence of garbage, poor drainage, and a physical environment that is worn. And that feeds into the psyche, I believe, of our people, especially our children. And it is not healthy that a growing boy or girl in the formative years of their life, childhood, is possessed of a sense of the slum being a part of their reality. And I see the role of this ministry as to so address matters that these negatives are significantly addressed. Part of the role of this ministry, of course, has to do with the management of waste. And we can see the management of waste as a challenge, or we can see the management of waste as being the opportunity for developing perhaps new economic sectors of activity. I believe that the minister is so in touch with things that you will find that through the efforts of this ministry that this twofold view of this business of waste management is embraced both by him and his team, and I look forward to them speaking with reference to the estimates in relation to that matter, that waste management with its challenges will be addressed as challenges, but also be seen as potential for the emerging and developing sectors that can enhance our economic life. This ministry, as I understand it, is charged, importantly so, with the business of preserving much of our heritage in terms of our physical and environmental space. Really, if we're talking about legacy, ma'am, that is important. What we pass on to the posterity that comes after us. This ministry, therefore, ma'am, leads us in the business of being proper stewards of this environment, of this space, so that we pass on to the generation of tomorrow a better environment than we have inherited and experienced today. And I look forward to the minister speaking in clear terms with respect to these matters insofar as the numbers entailed in the documents are concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The floor is open for questioning. Honourable Member for Christchurch West Central.
I want to thank the minister. I want to say to his staff as well, thanks for sharing with us this evening. My question to the minister certainly is that, what are the plans in place to try to stamp out illegal dumping? And if there are any plans, how is the ministry looking at putting more stringent laws in place? Because the scourge of illegal dumping not only affects our society and our country, but it affects our health as well. And I'm saying our idyllic space must be protected at all costs. So I want to know from the ministry what measures are being put in place as I speak, and how are we going to utilize our young people to champion the anti-littering and the campaign against garbage indiscriminate disposal. And to that end, because it's very important that Barbados not only remains a beautiful place, but a healthy and clean environment for all of us. So I want the minister, if he can elaborate and elucidate on those questions. Thanks.
Madam Chair, I would just make the point to the Honourable Minister that the government to which he belongs took a position during this term to repeal, or rather to make the announcement in this House Assembly of removing the tipping fee, which many persons who were transporting the waste from corporate individuals and households to the landfill were collecting, but were stopping short on the journey and they're finding some of what we call cart roads locations even within my constituency in the Bell. And in gullies, not only the Bell Gully, but gullies across Barbados, and disposing of the garbage, charging for the job, but also individuals were pocketing what was supposed to be the tipping fee. And we, this government, to which the Honourable Minister belonged, came to Parliament and made the announcement. Now I've been told that there is a necessity after a number of days elapse. I can't give you the specific amount of days, but we still have to come to Parliament and repeal officially the act that was responsible for the collection of the tipping fees. But this is a major problem. I would like some of my technical officers to speak on this, especially Mr. Ricardo Marshall. But this is a cultural practice. This is a cultural practice, and I personally believe as minister that is going to call for an educational program in order for us to remove what I consider to be the acculturation of people into doing these things in order to survive. They were prepared to breach all the fundamental principles of decency and health as long as they're getting money in their pockets as a reward for their services. I would like Mr.
And thank you. When you're looking at the issue with respect to illegal dumping, Ricardo Marshall, the project manager of the project unit in the ministry, when you are looking at the issues of illegal dumping, you have to look at it both from the perspective of the legislation as well as from the perspective of education and outreach. With respect to legislation, we are working on the amendment of the Returnable Containers Act, which would expand the items that are covered that you can now get a deposit refund for. We are also working on a Solid Waste Management Act, which would tighten the legislation relative to registering of vehicles that haul waste, how persons are to do things, what are the penalties for acting inappropriately. In addition, we've had a public education and outreach program running for quite a while, including a very strong schools program. One of the first activities, I think Minister would recall, was the launch in June of last year of a game called Waste Buster, the game that puts waste in its place, which is now in all of the schools. We have other programs that we're dealing with communities, with private sector entities, with other government agencies, working in partnership with existing recyclers and waste brokers. And so what we see as the way forward is a continuing education and outreach program which includes integrating matters into the school curriculum so that we're not burdening teachers any more than they're already burdened. In addition to that, we have a number of other activities that we are planning for the coming financial year, including Waste Expo. We have a number of other public relations type activities planned. We have a program with the schools where we're giving out bins for recycling, and we're bringing the private waste brokers and recyclers in to work with the schools and that sort of thing. We've also just launched our revamped website at solid.gov.bb, which covers what we're doing in terms of solid waste management and gives us that online presence.
Yeah. Honourable Member for St. George South.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay.
And indeed, I want to begin by first complimenting the Minister and his team for indeed, if we recognize the last 10 years in this country, what has happened, we know very well that the Minister, on assuming office, was dealt a bad hand, and in gambling terms, and I don't gamble, but a bad deck of cards. And I would want to, at this stage, to begin by complimenting him for the work that he has done thus far. And the minister, he himself received 2 garbage trucks, and that is indeed a start. That shows progress. And he also has done some work at the famous botanical gardens. And I would urge our members in this lower chamber to visit the botanical gardens to see the work that the minister has done. But I want to ask a question, though, to the minister and his team with respect to the garbage collection, and this pertains to trucks. Tell the public how many trucks you intend to receive in the coming financial year, and when is the delivery date for these trucks. And I know you are doing work just to educate the public. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I want to give the honorable representative for St. George North, South. We spend a lot of time in some of these believe that you represent the entire area and involved in holy activities. I also want to let you know that not only that we have been able to bring in 2 trucks in less than a year, unlike other persons who shared ideas but never did anything, and in some cases took pictures with trucks and indicate to the general public that these were new trucks, and the whole Barbadian public gullibly accept that he was standing alone in front of trucks that were second-hand trucks. All existed in Barbados long before the date when he took the picture. Madam, we're not that kind of theatrical type. This government and the SSA gave me the assurance that on the 27th of this month, the date was changed from the 11th, and I have reliable information from Mr. Cox from Simpson Motors that on the 27th of this month, we would add 2 more new garbage trucks to the fleet at the SSA. The trucks are already on the ship in the ocean to this noble destination, madam. And I also wanted to know that shortly after that, you will see 3 more trucks before the close of the month of March. So you will be able to see within a short period of time 7 new trucks coming in to the SSA, and you should begin to see a glaring record of the great improvement, not only in the work coming from the staff at the SSA, but also the availability of new trucks. The SSA has also completed the tenders for the importation of 15 additional trucks. I have with me here the chairman of the SSA, and we can further enlighten you on the progressive journey that within the last few months we have witnessed coming out of that specific agency of the Ministry of Social Transformation.
Thank you, Minister.
Of the Ministry of the Environment.
Madam Chairman, members of Parliament.
It's about transformation, madam.
Just to inform Madam Chair that the Board of Directors of the Sanitation Service Authority will this week be meeting to make a recommendation to the Ministry with respect to the importation of not only the new compactor trucks, but also with respect to the other equipment that is needed to carry out effective refuse collection on the island. Of course, as Minister alluded to, we do have and did inherit some significant challenges. The Sanitation Service Authority requires a fleet of 34 compactor trucks. We have been averaging in the vicinity of 12, 13, 14 trucks on a daily basis. Of course, you can appreciate that when the life of a compactor truck is 7 years, and you have trucks that are functioning which are 21 years, 17 years, 15 years, it is very challenging. So the trucks have mechanical and electrical challenges. And I want, Madam Chair, really to compliment the SSA staff, and in particular those who work in the mechanical department, for keeping the trucks operational. I know, Madam Chair, that the issue as indicated by the leader of the opposition about the cleanliness of Barbados is important, and we have made a determination that we will engage in what we term as a sweep exercise, where we are going to take a vast majority of those trucks on a continuous basis and put them in specific areas just to sweep the areas. And the Deputy Manager Operations is in the process of completing that scheduling exercise, and we hope to implement that in another week or so.
Related supplementary.
Thank you, Mr. Minister and Chairman. This is something that bothers me. It's a related question to the fleet. And we saw it under the Transport Board as well, whereby we allowed our fleet, whether it is buses and no garbage collection trucks, the compactor trucks, to deteriorate to a state whereby maintenance became just a word, but the actions did not allow our trucks to see the required availability in both instances at Transport Board and at the Sanitation Service Authority. As a follow-up question, could you tell us what plans you have in place when we receive these trucks, that the maintenance structure and programs, just outline them to us to give us a level of comfort that we don't just buy trucks and then within 6 or 7 years we see them in a state of disrepair and in a bad state. Over to you, Minister.
Minister, I don't know how far we can go with the concept, except at a theoretical, on the basis of a theoretical basis. We have a limited amount of trucks. The requirements is about 35 trucks in order to service the 166 square mile sovereignty, and we at present running some days at an average of 12 trucks. All types of schedules and alternative schedules have been discussed at the highest level. We have trucks that some people cannot even remember who was the manufacturers of the trucks. No manufacturer exists on the face of the earth. We have obsolete shop trucks that really befit the archives, and mechanics are working day in and day out, and it is unavoidable for us to be able to even keep down the cost of maintenance, because we just have to provide the service to the general public of Barbados. The other issue is that those who, over the years, a lot of these trucks, even if initially, and they were not, were standardized, The reality is because in the manner in which manufacturers are doing business and looking to enjoy certain economies of scale, you can easily have a truck with a Mitsubishi engine and the truck having a transmission of some exotic type that you don't even know if somebody in Mars was responsible for the construction of the vehicle. So there are all types of suppliers that bring in all types of inferior fusions in the different forms of material. Some of the material that is supposed to be of steel or even board, sometimes the sand is included in the fusion of the materials that we use sometimes for parts, because from the time you press the brakes 3 or 4 times, the vehicle don't have no more brakes after that. So we are living in the real world, and these are challenges, and although there are lots of recommendations offered to us, we try hard to apply them, but we discover that it most likely will end up in failure.
Honourable Member for St. Peter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to ask a question in relation to Subprogram 386 National Conservation Commission, and it has to do really with Far Hill National Park. Now, I know that NCC is essentially, there's a transfer from central government to that agency. The question I had, and I ask it not unaware of the fiscal constraints that government has, and by extension the ministry will have, but I'm really asking as it relates to the ministries and the NCC's thinking long term, well, sorry, not long term, medium term, and it relates to the building on the grounds of Farley Hill, and to ask the minister or an officer if there is any plan to attempt the rehabilitation of the building that is on the grounds of Farley Hill. It represents, or has come to represent, an eyesore. While it is sold as an iconic historical building, but it is an eyesore. There are also elements of possible danger to persons, but I mean, it's warded off, I understand that. But something that is sold as iconic, I'm wondering if there is any thought, any plan to address the building and possible rehabilitation.
Madam Chair, I would ask the director of the NCC, the manager of the NCC, to respond to this one. I was very much involved in the campaign on one occasion to rename that important historic destination after the freedom of Nelson Mandela, and we did not win the battle. That is as much as I can say about Farley Hill at this moment. Hold on.
Yes, Madam Chair, Nick Keith Neblet, General Manager of the NCC. Yeah, the building, we know some years ago we suffered an earthquake, and that in itself, the building itself prior to that was pretty unstable. And after the earthquake, it even made it worse. Worse to the extent that a lot of the major events that have been held there since then, we had to have an area that we consider safe for the public. It is one of those buildings that I think we need to preserve, but the first stage we need to do is to try to stabilize it. Some studies have been done, and some years ago, which at that point in time, the cost for stabilizing it was pretty close to $1 million, but it's gotten worse. We are now in the process of having, I know Professor Fraser for the National Trust. We're about to meet with him in terms of some views that he has in terms of how best that we can deal with it. But I think it's one of those areas I think we need to preserve. We're also looking in terms of also having some consultants outside of Professor Fraser look at it in terms of what is the best advice that they can offer to the NCC and to the government, how best we deal with it. But right now we have to, in terms of the staff, we have to restrict our staff from going into the building to the extent that it has several trees to start to grow in it, because we cannot really afford the staff to be in that type of environment. So we have extended, probably 2 years ago, even what we consider to be a safety barrier. But I think it's to reach a point where we can either have to take some serious thought in terms of stabilizing it. I think if you stabilize it, probably it can remain as a ruin, and there's a lot of history related to it. I know there was some thought of whether or not it should be looked at in terms of having it totally restored and have what as a conference center. But I think it being stabilized and remains as a ruin, to me, has a lot of historical value, and I think that's the approach from the NCC that we look at. But we will also take the advice of the consultants and what the National Trust's views are on it.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if I missed it. Did you mention a timeline? A time frame, estimated time frame? I'm not trying to pin you down to anything particular. Is it this coming financial year or the next one?
Yeah, no, well, we're about to meet. We have put money in estimates in terms for the consultants to have some views to advise the Commission the coming financial year. But the meeting with Professor Fraser for the National Trust, this is something that we had to reschedule a meeting about a week ago, but this is something that we're going to do shortly. And based on that, we'll be able in a better position to determine where the next step. But stabilizing it, to me, in terms of the safety of the patrons, is being heavily used by the Barbadian public. And I think we have as a priority to protect the safety, of the public using the area in the first instance, even before we think about any other alternative use of it.
You keep mentioning Professor Fraser, who I know to be a conservationist, but one who deals with the structure of the human body as opposed to structures made of concrete or soft stone. So I'm just wondering, I'm not hearing a focus on getting engineering input. Is that part of your thinking?
No, he did write the commission and express the idea in terms of how to look at it in terms of what he thinks in terms of how it can be utilized. But in terms of the stabilizing, certainly we had engaged engineers and we have got their findings, but as I indicated earlier, it has gotten worse since the earthquake. And I think any type of stabilizer, we have earnestly to engage the engineers, and that will have to be the first step in terms of that aspect of the work. But we consider it something as a priority that we certainly have to deal with.
Thank you, sir. Honourable Member for Christchurch East.
Thank you, Chair. First, I want to start by commending the NCC and the Honourable Minister and his entire ministry for the sterling work that they've been doing in and around Barbados. Barbados has been starting to look different. We see some form coming back. You actually get to enjoy a bit of the landscape of Barbados as you drive in a way that you couldn't before, so I wish to commend them for that. Having said that, all the concerned ministries, having said that, I wish to direct something to Mr. Neblett. Under sub-program 0386, the NCC, I see you have about $2 million less than last year. And this is a sub-program that is responsible for beautifying certain areas and recreational facilities. Now, as I drive around Barbados, as I go around Barbados, and particularly in Christchurch East, we see a lot of the play parks that are meant for the children in the districts that don't receive regular maintenance. And especially there seems to be no structured maintenance program. So a play park should always be clean and tidy in vacation or on a weekend. But there seems to be no serious thought or structure given to it. has the NCC considered contracting people who live in the areas or in the districts to provide the maintenance for those same play parks? Because if you contract those people, you may actually save yourself something in terms of equipment and maintenance and allow people to invest in a little entrepreneurial activity that, while they can get their bread and butter from the NCC, they can get spin-off benefits by using the same equipment to maintain other people's places in the area. I just want to know, what thought has the NCC given to providing a structure to ensure that the play parks and the recreational facilities are not just clean but kept clean on a regular basis?
Minister, under my watch, the NCC and the capable hands of the present board, as I indicated to you earlier, the ministry and its agencies were in a state of disequilibrium, and I had to restore confidence not only in the main ministry but in all the agencies, because the ministry prior to May the 24th, an individual who you should know better than anyone else in this chamber, a demagogue, ruled in a heavy-handed manner over that department and did not allow for proper structural and scientific approaches to prevail, regardless of what directions or views were expressed. And the first thing that I had to do is to restore confidence to all the staff at the NCC, the staff at SSA, the staff in the main ministries, and all the persons who are responsible for all the organs and programs in that ministry itself. The NCC, I don't know where you got the records from, but the NCC and its management may have been involved even on weekends, trying to assist the Ministry of Education. Up to last weekend, we were trying to remove the courage to the eastern side of the Blackman and Gollop School. We are receiving demands every day way beyond the traditional responsibilities which we have had. We are now undertaking the cleaning of streets as a consequence of the manner in which the staff was truncated at the Ministry of Transport and Works. We had to take up new responsibilities, cleaning streets, etc. We are also involved in working with the Ministry of Maritime Affairs and the Blue Economy in the removal of the sargassum on the beaches. As a consequence of that, we had to make major adjustments. And we are now putting in place a community-oriented program in which some people might classify as a crash program. But we are going to have a cleanup program not only in St. Michael's East, but it will occur concomitantly across every pocket across the national landscape, all at the same time. We'll be cleaning up the environs, all the physical environs all across Barbados. And we understand that when we talk about the Ministry of the Environment and National Beautification, we don't only speak about moving bush and manicuring play parks and lawns, we also understand that we are responsible as a consequence of the element of national beautification, that we also must have a physical transformation and an improvement in the general aesthetics of wherever we do our work. And I would like also to say, it is also the ministry and the NCC is always also attempting to bring a collective consciousness influenced by the ontological factors that must transform the human spirit. And that's what I mean when I talk about collective consciousness, that we must understand that we have a responsibility as a people for our own destination and improving the surroundings in which we live. So beauty for us, Madam Chair, is not a cosmetic exercise where somebody put on lipstick, I was called something on your face, mascara for your face, right? When we talk about beauty, what we try to do is to reflect with a main lipstick too.
Remember, you have 1 minute.
Madam Chair, I am talking about the natural beauty. I'm talking about the natural beauty of the environment in which we live. And I speak in metaphorical terms. There's no attempt to indict any form of gender whatsoever. But I know both genders, and I hear all persons are born of a fixed gender and cannot be transformed by any artificial means whatsoever. So I am conscious of that.
Straight from the topic.
Madam Chair, unfortunately, I was listening to on the side, and I thought that I had, unfortunately, I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
No problem. Any stuff,
Just to say in response that I would urge that some consideration be given to the aspect of my suggestion that deals with considering contracting persons from within the districts to undertake some of the cleanup activities or some of the beautification activities within the district. It may actually prove a little bit more cost effective to have those type of contracts than the total employment of a particular person, and might also spread the work to allow more people to be employed for less. It's just a consideration that I urge be given some credence.
Thank you.
When I said earlier that the program is community oriented, I'm not talking about a piecemeal program. I'm talking about providing employment for persons within the immediate community, and wherever possible, ensuring that small companies from within the community is responsible, because it is a transition period again where we're trying to cultivate that national consciousness so that people will learn to understand that they are responsible for their own communities and for themselves. And it is clear to everybody who is following government policy that the ministries and its agencies cannot increase employment within the ministries. So we have already put in place contractual arrangements with those persons working with the businesses within the community in order to carry out the service that will help us to bring this country to that high level of national beautification. Madam Chair.
Thank you. This brings us to the end of this session for tonight. We continue on another day. Honorable members, rest assured that you'll be taken in the order where I left you.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that you do now report progress to his honor the Speaker and ask for leave to sit again.
The question is, I do now report to Honorable Speaker progress and ask for leave to sit again. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All honorable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Friday the 22nd.
The chairman has reported progress and has respectfully requested leave to sit again. Murphy City, Bristol.
Mr. Speaker, I'd beg to move that the House be suspended until Friday at 10 a.m. in the forenoon.
The question is that this honorable chairman be suspended until Friday at 10 a.m. in the forenoon. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Meeting, the ayes have it. Suspended. This honorable chamber is suspended until Friday
the 22nd
at 10 a.m. in the forenoon.
Maybe 2.